Hey, this is Saul Roth, and we're going to be talking more about biceps. This is an entire series on how to build that wonderful muscle that shows off, fills up your fucking shirts, and looks great. The number one muscle you're going to flex your entire life, and the one that comes with the curls for the girls. So, how do you build your biceps? Pretty fucking easy. You do bicep curls. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do bicep curls, and the reason why I'm making this video, we're going to talk so much about this, is most people progressively overload this exercise wrong, or they kind of ignore it and just throw in 1 or 2 sets at the end of their workout, which doesn't work. Which is why even people that are relatively fit tend to not have fully developed biceps. Now, genetically speaking, it doesn't, you probably can't tell unless you're used to looking at it. I actually don't have like dominant large genetic biceps. If you look at the tendon insertions, if I go like this, and you look at the space between the bicep and the elbow, I can fit like 3 fingers. That's actually considered average, maybe even a little bit below average for where the tendon insertion is for my bicep. Now, who cares? I fully developed my biceps, so it looks huge. I got a nice freaking peak. It fills out my shirts. It looks great. But just genetically speaking, I don't actually have genetically huge biceps. I just beat the hell out of them, worked them out like crazy, so they grew. And I'm going to talk to you about how I did that. And you can do it too, but it's going to hurt. The cool part is you don't need to go to a big fancy gym. You don't even need ridiculously heavy weights. Your bicep is not that big of a muscle in comparison to the rest of your body, and it can be isolated pretty easily. So you pretty much can get away with medium weights. But, and this is the big but, and the part that you probably are doing wrong, you have to progressively overload the movement. And what I mean by that is you have to make it harder. As your body adapts to stress, gets stronger, and your muscle grows somewhat, you have to keep making it more difficult on yourself. The easy way to do that is you just keep adding a little bit more weight, but even that will eventually stop working if you're doing the same exercise. So there's always different little ways to keep making it more difficult, keep pushing through to make your body adapt to that stimulus and grow your muscles. So, let's talk about some of those. We'll start with my favorite bicep exercise. Really simple. You're just gonna put walk out your arms. From the side view, it looks like this. It's gonna be straight. Put them to your sides, get the full range of motion. And you can come up with both hands at the same time, slowly at the top, and then bring it down. At the top, you're gonna bring it down. You're just gonna do those until you can't do anymore. You don't have to go to failure every single time, but biceps are a pretty easy exercise to force yourself to go to where you can't do any. So you can feel free to go all the way to failure or 1 rep until failure. It's a fantastic exercise to do that with, as opposed to like squats, which feel absolutely terrible to take all the way to failure. But you should do that sometimes anyways. Okay, so I'm just gonna do the form. I'm not gonna do the workout on this video. I'll do it on a different video. But like here, straight, you're gonna come all the way up, slow, and then down. And these are constant. Gonna work on good form, nice and slow, nice and controlled. You're gonna do, like I said, those until you can't do anymore. And the way you progressively overload those is that motion is gonna be the hardest in the beginning. And so you can do, you can start like this, and then when you can't do anymore, you can cheat the beginning a little bit, so throw in some cheat curls to try to really push and strain the rest of the movement. You can also go into every other arm and just give a little bit, so it's basically like a rest pause. You can try more weight, you can do more reps, you can then practice a little less controlled. You can try rocking it up. So you put it here and you go as fast as you can, and then go really slow in the negative. So you should start making it more difficult once you're doing it normally and you stop progressing. And every time you stop progressing, you make it more difficult, make it more difficult, make it more difficult. Try harder, try harder, try harder. Try doing something different. Try changing the angle up. And so change the way you do the reps. Try them fast, try them slow, try them controlled, try them cheated. You're gonna change the way you do the exercise. So if you're doing all perfect slow form, instead you're gonna, when it becomes more difficult, you're gonna do like pauses. You can do alternating arms, so you get more of a rest in between. And you can also increase the strictness of the form too. So not only doing the cheat version of it, you can also do the strict version of it. So that's where you put your back up against something like this, and then you'll do them. So you can absolutely not cheat it at all, which will, I'm gonna make you real sore right here. And that is all the ways to progressive overload that single variation of the bicep curl. Now, you can do more than one variation. Biceps are a pretty tough muscle. Like you can just beat the hell out of it and do a lot of volume to make it grow, and it'll just take it, and it'll grow eventually. Like I said, I don't genetically have huge biceps. This is from hard work. Okay, so we will do another variation. After you do those, another variation I enjoy doing, you don't have to do this one. The most important one I just showed you is that one. You could just do a bunch of different versions of that one and do all those progressive overloads, but it's gonna be really boring, and you're probably gonna want a little variety, and it's good to get experience doing different versions of the same exercise anyways. So let's change it up a little bit. The other version I enjoy is the twisting, where you start it sideways and you bring it in this way. You twist here and bring it down. It feels good. Works some other muscles around the bicep, but it also works the bicep. And you bring that in, you do those two, you can't do anymore. The progressive overloading of that exercise is pretty much the same. You can do them like this. You can cheat the beginning more. Once you start getting tired, you can cheat the beginning more. You can try rocketing them up and going slow. You can do the slow negatives. You can try changing where the twist is. You can do them against the wall or against the, make it like very strict, right? So you come in here, there's less cheating because you have to keep your back perfectly straight. You can do the cheated version where you swing it up like this. You can do all those different types of things to try to make it harder, try to push your body more. You try to work different parts of it throughout the range of the exercise. And you can do it in combination with the other one I just showed you. And again, all of these can be done. These are medium weights. You don't even need heavy weights. Heavy weights is better, makes it easier to progressive overload, because if you don't have heavy enough weights, you have to keep doing all this weird stuff to make the exercise harder, but you're eventually gonna have to do that anyways. So it's good to get used to forcing yourself to make something harder once it becomes too easy and your body adapts to it and you stop getting stronger. Now, one more variation, and then you're pretty much good. You can just do that. I'm gonna show you some other stuff I actually do with biceps too, but the other variation is the hammer curl variation. You're gonna keep it like this, you're gonna bring it straight up. This works a lot of the forearm and some of the shoulder too, but I still like it. And you don't want big biceps and tiny forearms anyways. So this allows you to work the forearm at the same time you're working the bicep, which would be better looking arms. The cool part about it is it's fun. And a lot of people are a lot stronger with this motion. So you get to lift heavier weights or do more reps, which is cool too. And the progressive overload is exactly the same. There's the strict version, the cheat version, the slow negatives, variate the reps, variate the speed, variate the form, and keep pushing yourself to make it harder. Once you get used to this and have to think about it, it becomes second nature. It's just kind of something you do. It takes about 10 minutes to do a bunch of different sets. The bicep recovers from fatigue super fast because it's not a giant muscle group. And so you can just do 30-second to 1 minute rests, pound on the set, pound on the set, pound on the set, get the volume in, do all the progressive overloading, and it takes about 10 minutes, twice a week, and you have great biceps for the rest of your life. Like this video and subscribe if you have any comments on how you built your arms or how I built my arms or anything about arms. Go ahead and leave them right here on this video, and I will respond to you personally, hopefully. Or I'll ignore you and make fun of you. It depends on what you ask me. One of the interesting things about arms that I should also mention, since I'm talking about bicep development, is some people have an easier time getting that peak. See this peak right here? Where it comes up and points? Where almost like you see the peak, the valley, the peak, the bicep peak. I do actually have good genetics for a bicep peak. So even if you do everything right, if you have no space here, so your bicep kind of fills this out, you'll be able to get stronger, and it's actually genetically superior in some ways, but it makes having a bicep peak much harder. So a lot of guys with very long, lengthy arms, which means fuck you, you're probably tall and pretty anyways, who cares? But if you have long, lengthy arms, or maybe you're wiry and you look terrible, so I guess I shouldn't say that. it's going to be more difficult for you to get that bicep peak. So don't feel bad. You can still build bigger biceps and it'll increase the size of your arms, but you're going to have a hard time with the peak. That is mostly genetic. There's nothing special you do to build the peak. There are parts of it, or like in that range of motion, that'll work like different. But really, this muscle works together as a unit. Some of the muscles have different heads. Like there's different heads of the tricep, but in general, the muscle works together. So you work the whole bicep, your bicep grows, your bicep grows, your bicep grows. What makes your bicep have a giant peak, or what makes people have that huge, thick, long, like full, round bicep is actually genetics. It has nothing to do with training. Unfortunately. And fortunately, it depends on where you fall in the genetic spectrum. If you look at professional bodybuilders, currently, the ones that make it the farthest, that sit up on the Olympia stages and stuff, have genetically ridiculously full, round muscle bellies. So their bicep, for example, will be peaked like mine, but like come even farther down, so they'll have a better insertion point and be like full, thick, and ultra round. And they won't have to do anything to get that. As long as they work the bicep and they grow, they'll automatically have those full, round muscle bellies that look great. Genetics is a bitch when it comes to how your muscles look. I feel good because even though I don't have genetically big biceps, I actually do like the shape of my body, the shape of my bone structure, which includes like the width of my shoulders, where some of the muscles attach. But like I said, I didn't do anything for that, just born that way. And you probably have good parts about your genetics and how your muscles are attached to your frame and your skeleton, all that good stuff that we'll talk about in other episodes, that you can accentuate to make yourself look more attractive and stronger. Unfortunately, some people get the genetic shit stick and they won't be able to build the body they want no matter what they do. And that just totally sucks. But I think it's important to talk about, because what if that was you and you really wanted to look a certain way and you didn't realize that that's genetically set? So that peak that looks so good is actually genetics. But developing it and getting it to grow to where it shows is hard work. If you look at kid pictures of me, I didn't used to have much of a bicep at all. My arm was like so skinny. Because like I said, genetically, I don't have huge arms. I just built these. But the insertion points and like the peak and stuff look good, and that's genetically set, but you still have to put the hard work in to get them to show and get them to grow. And the way you do that is with the exercises I just showed you and putting in all that effort into progressive overload. If they're not growing and you're doing what I'm telling you, try harder, try harder. Make sure you get enough protein, try harder. Make them sore as hell, then rest enough to make sure they grow. Then do it again. Everyone can grow their biceps doing what I just showed you. There's a bunch of people on YouTube Fitness that are going to give you a bunch of weird variations and angles for this and go into all this different theory, but it doesn't matter. The bicep works together as a unit. There's only one muscle here. Anyways, build it, make it sore, push yourself harder, progressively overload it, and it will grow, and then you'll be able to reach the potential to make it look like whatever's in your genetic base. This is Saul Roth. Like this video and subscribe.